Hey, you clicked on my video. Appreciate it. Now be sure to like the video and subscribe to the page. Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. Mark Twain once said, "If you're telling the truth, you don't have to remember anything." Now, I don't know how true that statement is from a psychological standpoint, but let me ask you something. Don't go back and watch the highlights. Don't go back and rewatch the recording of it on the internet or cut up clips on YouTube. Just off the top of your head, right now, what do you remember about the spring game? What do you remember? I'll tell you what I remember. Oh, Greg Penn flying around making a few tackles. Defensive line looked good. Running backs looked really good, the best they've had in 2 years. Offensive line, the run blocking was better than I imagined. All that, okay, off the top of your head. Quarterbacks, you can leave a comment in the comment section right now. First thing that pops into your head. What do you remember? Because what I remember in my mind, off the top of my head, with the quarterbacks, Garrett Nussmeier, the elite touch throws that he made all over the field. 2 of them in particular. The one that he dropped to Dre Jenkins, and the other one to Malik Neighbors on his last drive before scoring a touchdown to Jack Besh. And then I think about the 2 passes. One was a little risky, and the other one he should have thrown away and was almost intercepted. Then we get to Jayden Daniels. First thing that pops into my mind, well, he made a lot of really unbelievable runs. He's really fast, and he had some really good deep balls, and one of them was to Brian Thomas, and another one was to a wide-open throw to Jack Besh. Okay? And he also, I remember him missing some wide-open, easy throws as well. Then we get to Myles Brennan. What do you remember? What play comes to mind? What sticks out? Can you remember anything? See, all I heard from scouts, from people who are reporters, who watch the practices and the scrimmage all spring long, insiders with sources inside the building and the program, they were all telling you, well, Myles has looked the best. Myles Brennan has the edge. And then you hear Brian Kelly say after the spring game,
you know, we didn't clear up anything with the quarterback today. We probably made it even more difficult. You know, I mean, Brennan was good today, right? I mean, he does really good things with the football. He knows the offense. He's smart. He takes care of it. Nussmeier, we talked about Nussmeier's athletic ability, his arm strength. Daniels is really, really fast, and Walker's got one of the strongest arms on the team. So I don't know if we cleared up anything there. And
I'm like, okay, fine. Look, I'm not the expert, all right? I'm out of my league. Let me go back and watch the spring game in detail some more. Do a little film study from what I understand about how to watch film. And I just didn't see anything that jumped out. Now, it's one spring game, but then I realized I can't remember anything that jumped out because I went into the spring game with a huge bias take. Jayden Daniels will be the starter. He was brought in for a reason. They like running quarterbacks. And maybe Myles Brennan will start if it's a 2-quarterback system. Okay? That's what I thought. I thought the reports that Garrett Nussmeier was pushing for the job, he was a dark horse candidate, he was the most consistent. I thought all of that was bullshit. I was totally against it. A, because there were too many conflicting reports about which quarterback was better. B, there were too many people watching scrimmages and saying Myles Brennan and Jayden Daniels were all taking first-team reps and Myles looked the sharpest. C, because Brian Kelly went out of his way to get Myles Brennan to come back from the transfer portal to LSU, to go out of his way to get Jayden Daniels to come. So he was telling you one thing but doing another. I went in biased as hell toward Jayden Daniels and Myles Brennan. And I'll be damned. I'll eat crow right here in front of you. Brody Miller of The Athletic, in my opinion, the most trusted LSU beat reporter, along with Wilson Alexander of The Advocate, go figure, was right. Nuss has looked the best. Nuss has been the most consistent. I left the spring game saying Garrett Nussmeier is the best guy out there. Going in thinking, nah, fuck that, he ain't the guy. Going back and breaking the film down once I got home, and I'm not, some film study expert like others, but I played the game over. I studied it enough. I looked back at the throws and all these other things to see what I was looking for, and it became even more obvious the second time watching it around that the spring game, Garrett Nussmeier was the best. In person, on my computer, on TV, what have you. Now, if y'all disagree with me, and there are people that do, that are Myles Brennan homers, all these people saying Myles Brennan is the starter or maybe Jayden Daniels is, what did y'all watch? Tell me. Leave me a comment. Tell me. Call me an idiot why I'm an idiot. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, Myles Brennan's stats in his first 3 games in 2020 were more than Joe Burrow's first 3 games in 2019. Okay, stats are for losers. I'm not calling you a loser. I'm just saying stats are for losers. They threw the ball like 40-plus times. I don't care about the stats because they didn't have a run game, okay? And plus, Myles Brennan stayed in those games the entire time. Watch the film of those games. Myles was indecisive. Okay, he had more stats, but a lot of it was stat padding. A lot of it was out of necessity. Because Joe Burrow, in his first 2 of his 3 games in the 2019 season, Texas was one of them where he played the entire time, but the other one was against Georgia Southern and Northwestern State. Georgia Southern, he threw 5 touchdown passes, but he only threw for like 280 yards because they pulled him. Because they were beating the shit out of him at halftime. Stop looking at stats. Don't bring up the stats. Tell me what you see. Tell me why I'm wrong. Because what I'm saying is that Myles Brennan is an above-average quarterback with a great arm strength. Jayden Daniels is elite runner, elite athleticism, but he is an above-average quarterback who can make great deep throws, but cannot consistently make intermediate to short, easy throws. Which is exactly what the Arizona State people said about him when he left Arizona State. He needs to work on those things. It's either he can run really good or he can throw a great deep ball. Everything else, not so much. Now, it does need to be said that Brian Kelly said that Jayden Daniels is learning new footwork and that he's still trying to get comfortable with it. So maybe that has something to do with it. And also, if you notice watching him throw, specifically on the Brian Thomas Jr. catch that was a deep ball down the field in the first half, Jayden Daniels kind of has this like extra hitch in his step. It's sort of off base and out of rhythm. Maybe that's, him learning the new footwork that they're teaching him. Maybe he'll get better at that. I didn't see that hitch in his step when he was at Arizona State. I don't know. And let's say this for a second. Let's say you're one of those people who are like, well, look, Myles Brennan and Jayden Daniels have to be the starters because you go with the veteran guy in year 1. You have to go with the veteran experienced guys. And I'll buy that argument. I'll listen to that argument. I think it's a fair argument to make. But if you're Myles Brennan, you're the 6-year senior quarterback, then why is Garrett Nussmeier, a 19-year-old redshirt freshman who's finally getting competent college coaching for the first time, unlike last year, why is he pushing you for the starting job in spring? Same thing with the 4-year junior and Jayden Daniels, who has started 30 games at ASU. Why is the veteran guy not dominating the quarterback competition? Why is the 19-year-old redshirt freshman pushing you for the starting job the second he gets good coaching? I mean, tell me something that Myles can do that Nussmeier can't do, and then some. I never once have seen Myles Brennan with that kind of touch and accuracy on the football. I've seen his arm strength. I've seen him throw fastballs, not that kind of touch. I haven't seen that kind of calmness in the pocket. I haven't seen that kind of confidence in the pocket, not for Myles Brennan, and he can't run like Nuss can. 19 versus 23. Who is most likely going to get better throughout the summer and fall camp 4 months from now, the 19-year-old or the 23-year-old? I mean, who has more to improve on? If it's a tie right now, who's going to improve the most? And I noticed something else. This is more nerdy quarterback evaluation kind of thing, but this is a homework assignment for all of you. Go watch the fluidity of the quarterbacks. And what I mean by that is, imagine you're watching a prize fighter like, Muhammad Ali, all right? He's dancing in the ring, okay? The shoulders are loose, the feet are loose. There's no herky-jerky movement. Everything from the feet to the fingertips looks connected all at once when they throw the football. All right? That's what you look for in the best quarterbacks. Watch that in Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. Go watch that in Joe Burrow, okay? They just look like this fluid, bouncy prize fighter just dancing in the ring. You see that. Now go watch that in the LSU spring game from Saturday and see who has that natural dancing fluidity that I'm talking about when they throw the football. Now, as far as what I think is going to happen, there are several options that can go down with this quarterback battle, but let's just talk about the one that I think is going to happen. I think this is going to end up being a 2-quarterback system to start the season. Either Myles or Jayden Daniels will get the start, but Garrett Nussmeier will get thrown in as well.
Coach, in all the time that you've been doing this, have you ever played two guys before, and if it was like super close, would you consider doing that? I had to answer.
Nightmares. I've played two. Yes. It's not easy. I mean, it's not easy. It has to be a situation where, you have to do it. I'd much rather just play one quarterback and try to fit the offense to their traits, over somebody else. The 2-quarterback situation is so difficult to manage.
The funny thing about that response is that Brian Kelly has done that very successfully at Notre Dame multiple times. In 2012, where they went undefeated in the regular season, and 2018, where they also went undefeated in the regular season. Arguably the two best seasons Kelly had at Notre Dame. He had a 2-quarterback system. The veteran guy started a lot of games, but the young guy came in sparingly throughout the game. And by the last month of the season, the young guy was always on the field, always the starter. I think the way this is going to turn out for LSU this season is the same way it turned out for Notre Dame in 2012 and 2018. 2-quarterback system. You start the veteran guy. In 2012, it was Tommy Rees. And you work in the young guy. In 2012, it was Everett Golson, more the runner. And in the first half of the season. And by the time the last month of the season rolls around, the young guy, in this case Garrett Nussmeier, will take over eventually full time. That's what I think this is going to happen. Or you could do what Saban did with Jalen Hurts in 2016. You start a bunch of veteran guys in the opener in the first half against USC and Jerry World, but by the second half, Jalen Hurts is, flashing and he's scoring all these touchdowns against USC, and he ultimately won the job just after 2 weeks of the regular season. I think this is where we're headed with the quarterback situation for 2022. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter and Facebook in the description link below.